Banks is here at D'Arbonne National Wildlife Refuge. He bands ducks every year and goes to Canada several years. So a lot of duck experience between the two of us. But this presentation we built some years ago to help refresh banders and help new people. And so we welcome all recommendations and criticisms, and we may even ask for pictures and stuff in here because there's always some slide that we want to fix or do better, or we took a picture and we think it's great until you put it on there and it's out of focus. So with that, we'll just get started.
Hey, John.
Okay, so
Hey, sorry to interrupt you. I forgot to tell everyone that I've got to give a notification that the presentation is being recorded. So if you have any objections to that, you're free to leave the presentation now. But just want to let everyone know that we're recording. All right, thanks, John.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, so this is about aging and sexing wood ducks, and we're going to go through the whole bird and do a lot of stuff on wings. But remember, when you're banding any duck, you have the whole bird. Use the whole bird. Okay, here we go. Just for argument's sake, when I say hatch year, HY, immature, juvenile, they all mean the same thing. They all mean that the duck was hatched in 2023. If I say adult or after hatch year, it means a duck that was hatched before 2023. You'll hear me use these interchangeably throughout the presentation. So everybody look at these two ducks I have in my hands, and give yourself about 3 seconds. I want the sex and age on them. You just write it down or think of it in your head. What has he got in his hand? 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Okay. Those are both immature males. Now, the one on the left has got a big, pretty, breeding plumage head, a lot of green, a lot of purple, the white saddle there on the face. You can see that very obviously. The ducks, especially in the southern United States, the wood ducks, they hatch everywhere from late February into June and probably later. So you deal with a lot of different feather replacement, even the size of birds and breeding plumage coming in earlier on some ducks and others. So be very careful doing these. These are probably the hardest ducks to deal with because of such a long breeding season. So there's another one. What do y'all think that is? Boy, he's got a lot of white, on his head, and green and purple, and he's still a hatch year male. Don't use the head. Don't use the face. Okay. The first thing I like to do when I get a duck in my hand is band it. That way, if it flutters or I drop it or whatever, it gets away, I still know it's an unknown wood duck. I may have noticed it was a female. I have some partial data. I got the band on the bird. So I always band it, then I do sex, and then I do age. Those are interchangeable, but band the duck first. Let's talk a little bit about wing anatomy. We're going to be talking about the tertials and a little bit about the secondaries and the coverts, tertial coverts, the middle coverts, the greater coverts. You'll hear me refer to this area right in here as the shoulder. You'll hear me talking about going up the shoulder. This is what I'm talking about right here. All right. Adult male wood ducks are in various stages of eclipse. It means, they're brown. They don't have their breeding plumage during most of the banding season. Most of the ducks that you tend to handle during the banding season are immatures, and they don't look pretty like the ducks we're used to seeing in December and January in breeding plumage. So this can be difficult. So take your time when you're doing this, and hopefully you have people there that you can ask questions and bounce ideas off of and come to a good decision. Okay, this is what I call the sex feather. It's the first tertial, and I call it also the oil slick feather because you see that iridescence on it. It looks like when you spill motor oil on the concrete. If it has no black on it, it's a male. All these things I talk about today are going to be almost always. Nothing is always or never, with a duck. So almost always, this 95% chance or greater, this feather won't have any black on it. It's a male. Same feather, got that iridescent motor oil look with some black on it, that's a female. Many of you have probably been told if it's got a white teardrop on the trailing edge, it's a female. That is true sometimes. The sex feather with the black or the void of black is much more accurate. It's probably greater than 95%. I would say this white trailing edge is probably somewhere around 75%. So I I'll always use this feather if it's available. Again, you can see black, you can see the white teardrops female. You can see the straight line white versus the no black there on the oil slick feather, the sex feather. That's a male. These feathers right here are usually a bluish purple on a male, and we will look at females later. I'll point it out. They're a little more pinkish purple there. Again, a male, no black. Got this bluish purple here. That's just in the coverts. It's just something else to look for. Straight white line. But again, this is the feather I'm looking for first and foremost. Be careful sexing and aging birds by facial characteristics. This is a hatchier female. Most females have this little white stripe, but sometimes when they're young, people will mistake that for saddle pattern on a male. Just don't do that. You know, you can look at the face and it can help you, but don't let the face be a determining characteristic for you. All right, what do I have here? I have an adult male who's in complete eclipse plumage. He'll have juvenile males next to him that look exactly the same. They're almost devoid of color on the head. They have a little bit of that saddle marking, but again, don't use the face to age the bird. Females usually have a large white eye ring, but we'll note that that doesn't mean that that's an adult. Here's a female without a white eye ring, probably a very young bird. So again, faces and heads are not very diagnostic in sexing and aging wood ducks. If there's any juvenile characteristic present on a bird, it makes it juvenile. So you can have all adult feathers, but one. You have one juvenile feather, it's immature. The penis is diagnostic on aging males. Go through your bird, look at it, decide what you think it is, roll him over, pop it open. We'll look at this later in the presentation. You can check behind yourself. Aging females can be more difficult, especially late in the season when they're starting to get that breeding plumage. First thing I look at when I get a bird in my hand is its tail feathers. And if they're wispy, you can read the newspaper through them. You can see how you see the paper through those feathers. They have a V notch in them where they're broke off. Just those are immature feathers. You don't need to go any farther as far as aging this duck. It's immature. Here we have one immature feather on the left. The rest of them are adult tail feathers that are coming in. You can see how they're big and broad and dark and rounded. And that immature feather on the left is long and pointy and wispy. You could stick your thumb under it and see your fingernail. It's got that V notch in the end. One immature feather makes the bird immature. Be careful of broken feathers. We're rocket netting most of these birds. They get a little bit beat up. They have feathers that are missing or broken. If it's a big dark feather with a big giant V notch in it, it's usually a broken tail feather on an adult. Here we go again. We have out on the outside there, we have immature feathers. You can see they're brown, they're not very dark, they're wispy, they have the V notches in them. This bird is slightly damp. Those middle tail feathers are darker. They're not as round as I'd like for them to be in this particular picture, but you can see they're much broader and rounded than those immature feathers on the outside. Adult tail feathers are big, broad, and rounded and thick. If you put your thumb under them, you can't see your fingernail through them. They're thick feathers. They got a lot of color to them. This immature feathers on the outside, no feathers on the middle. You look on the very outside, right in here, you can see it's not even broken off to make the V notch. These haven't even broken out yet, but these are all immature feathers. Immature tail feathers. A great example of an adult tail feather that's been broken there on the left. On the right, if you look in the middle, there's a lot of adult feathers, but look out there on the end, there's those wispy, pointy, V-notched immature feathers. So make sure you look at the whole bird, look at all the feathers on it. You're looking for that one immature feather. Okay, we're going to go talk about the tertials a little bit now. These are the tertials. can see where they are on the wing. These are the tertials. This tertial is immature. You can see through it. You can see the piece of paper under it. You can see this. It's almost like hair growing out the end of it. It hasn't broken off to make a V notch yet here. This feather up here underneath it, you can see that's probably an adult feather. Again, same thing, wispy, pointy, see through it, immature feather. These are adult feathers. They're big and broad and rounded, have a lot of color. You're not going to be able to see through them. There's a black tertial with a white stripe on it on adult males. We'll see one of those later in the slide. But this is an adult female, big, thick, big, broad, and rounded. Big, broad, and rounded is a good characteristic for all adult feathers on all ducks. Excuse me. Here's a tertial. You can see through it and see the feather underneath it. That's an immature feather. It's wispy, it's pointy, it's see-through. All right, let's move on to replacement. This feather right here, where my mouse cursor is, that is an adult feather. The feathers either side of it are immature. You can see that they're kind of a poor green color, and this is a kind of bluish purple. That's an adult feather. It's got a different shape. Sometimes if you're looking at a bird very close, you don't notice this. You need to hold it at arm's length. You can't see the wing for the feathers or the forest for the trees. When you see replacement, that is an immature bird. You have an adult feather replacing immature feathers. So be aware of that when you're looking at duck wings. This is an adult female. Remember we talked about that pinkish purple? There it is. You can see it. It's more pinkish purple than bluish purple on the male. But what we're worried about here is age. And if you look, this is the greater coverts. And you're going up the shoulder through the coverts. They're all the same color. They're all the same shape. They're getting smaller, but they're the same shape and color. Have at least 3 rows of color through here. They're all the same color. That's an adult wing. Versus an immature wing. 2 rows of color. They're kind of that poor green color. They don't run very far out over the secondaries. They don't go way up in the shoulder. That is a hatch ear. But also be aware this female has a huge white eye ring, but it is an immature female. Here's another adult female. 1, 2, 3 rows of color. All the same shape, all the same color. It blends very well, runs way out over the secondaries. An adult female. Hatch ear female. 1, 2. It's trying here on this 3rd row, but if you look, this is more blue, this is more green. The shape is off. These are wispy. You could kind of pull them out. You'd be able to see through them versus these would be much thicker. See our sex feather with a little bit of black on it there? There's a notched tail feather up here also. This is an adult male. No black on the sex feather. We know it's a male. 1, 2, 3. That 3rd row is not great, but it's there. It's got the color, and hey, it's a male. We can roll him over, pop him open, and check behind ourselves. But that's an adult male. Hatch ear male. 1, 2. It's making an attempt here on the 3rd. It doesn't run very far out over the primaries. The shape is poor. I'm sorry, not the primaries. These are the secondaries. It doesn't run very far out over the secondaries. Poor color. Doesn't have 3 full rows. Immature. Another immature male. 1, 2 rows of color. Trying to start a 3rd. You'll see a lot of birds like this throughout the banding season in the South. This is a type specimen adult male. Here's the secondaries. Here's his black tertial that we talked about with the white on it. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 rows of color. All the same color, all the same shape. Color goes way out and way up into the shoulder. That is a type specimen adult male. Here is an immature male. here is the black adult tertial with the white stripe coming in. Has 1, 2 rows of color. Again, trying to start that third row. As you can see, the color doesn't really match good. It doesn't go very far out. Pop him open, check behind yourself. Another immature male, 2 rows of color. I'm going to talk about the age feather now. And this is something that I use on the wing a lot when I'm at the wing bee. But when I have the whole bird, I hardly ever use it. It's kind of hard to find. It's not that reliable. But if you need to look for it, I'm going to show you where it's at. So in these greater coverts right here above the secondaries, the last feather before you get to the posthumerals is the age feather. If it's wispy and pointy and you can see through it, it's immature. If it's big and broad and kind of squared off with good color, it's an adult. There's the feather that we're looking for. It's not always on the birds. Maybe it hadn't been replaced yet. Maybe it's fallen out. Maybe you knocked it off while you were rocket netting. So again, if you don't need this, don't use it. This is just something extra. There's one there. That's a big square one with a lot of color. That's an adult. That's an adult male because there's no black there. So the feathers on the left are all adult age feathers that I pulled out of wings. You can see they're kind of squared off. They have pretty decent color versus the ones on the right are almost devoid of color, kind of pointy, wispy. You can see the paper through them or your thumbnail through them. The same with all immature feathers. There's an age feather. It's immature. See my thumbnail through it. It's almost devoid of color. It's more pointy and less squared off. There's an adult feather. It's thicker, got better color. It's more squared off. These are still age feathers. There's a type specimen age feather. Squared off, big and thick. You can't see the paper through it. That's an adult. All right, your turn to guess. What do I have here? This is the age feather. That's an adult. Squared off, big and thick, good color. Here's another one. What do y'all think? Immature, wispy, pointy, almost devoid of color. All right, this next group of slides we're going to look at, I want you to be aware of ducks that haven't molted yet and their feathers are really worn out and bleached out and frayed. This is because the feathers are almost a year old and they've been out in the elements in the sun. Sometimes the ducks will kind of have a blonde appearance. You mostly see this in females, and they'll be adults. And they'll be early in the banding season mostly. So if you see a female that like every feather on it looks like it's immature, but it's worn out beyond belief, it's usually an adult female. This is a blue-winged teal wing, but that doesn't matter. You can see how ratty the feathers are, and all the feathers are ratty. It looks like it's been chewed all the way around. It's kind of bleached a little bit blonde. It's not as dark as it should be. The feathers on the body and everything will be like that. This is a wood duck wing. I apologize for the photo. It's a little bit out of focus, but you can see this is a female, and where the teardrop shape should be white. It's gone. It's essentially rotted away or fell off, and the wing itself is bleached out, more blonde. The feathers throughout this duck are all worn out, but they're excessively worn out. They're way worse wear than an immature feather, and there's hardly any replacement. These are adults, and they're almost always adult females because usually if it's a male, he is already molted unless he's injured or there's been some other kind of problem with him. So most of the birds that you find like this are going to be females in your banding season. Here's another wing. You can see that it's completely worn out and got the void of color. The white where the teardrop should be is gone. The bird looks kind of blonde. Again, if anybody has good pictures of these or encounters them and takes good pictures, this slideshow was built 15 plus years ago. So the camera technology on your phone is much better now than what we had when we originally built it. And I accept all new pictures so we can have a better slideshow next time. No reason to ever get a male wrong on age. You can roll him over and pop it open and see his penis. You can see it there. It looks like a noodle or a sheath is over it. That is an adult. If it's a black point or pencil tip looking, sometimes they'll be white or pink. They're usually black, but if it looks like the tip of a pencil, it's an immature. Very easy to see. I'll go back to the adult. Noodle-like sheath. You can see it's kind of white right here, much thicker looking versus the tiny black point, or whether that's white or pink, it's irrelevant, but it's usually black. That's an immature. The pointy is immature. The big, heavy noodle looking is adult. There's an adult. Looks like it has a sheath or covering over it. There's an immature, black and pointy. It can be kind of difficult to pop these things open and see this if you've never done it before, but I'm sure somebody you work with can show you. And once you've handled a few, it really becomes easy. So I would get the bird, go through your aging and sexing through the tail feathers and the body and the wing. Think, maybe tell your partner what you think it is, and then y'all roll him over and pop it open and check behind yourself, and you'll get to where, you're, man, I'm 99% of the time. And if you should always do this if you have any doubt whatsoever. Okay, does anybody have any questions? This is a male duck that has a little bit of an eye ring there.